people who are ego-driven are going to villainize you for that and say, yeah, you do suck a little bit, don't you? But they're not going to leave you. They're going to stick around. I mean, that's an easy win for them. So I think the same thing for you. I wonder if one of the reasons, and you have massive self-belief. So it's like the opposite of, I'm afraid to be left behind. So if somebody's pointing out my mistakes, I got to make an excuse fast of why this has happened.
The amount of responsibility that you take is predicated on self-efficacy. It's predicated on what you believe you're in control of. So for you, you take a lot of responsibility in fitness because you feel in control in fitness. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where if you think, oh, I suck, and that's your thought record, you're not going to take more responsibility. You're already crumbling under the responsibility you have.
Next Level Nation, welcome back to another episode of Next Level University, where we help you level up your life, your love, your health, and your wealth. Today, for episode number 1937, internal dialogue controls everything. If you're an overthinker, you are a chronic overthinker, you ruminate on things, this episode will probably resonate with you. So I was having a conversation with somebody on Instagram through the old DMs, and we were talking about, I'm always talking to people. I check in with people, how you doing, what's new, how's business, all that. And I was talking to this person about how, at the time, I was really focused on writing my book, my podcast book. And they said, wishing you bestseller vibes. By the way, I love helping people find top-notch. They were kind of selling me on something. And then the message after that was, and also I totally get that's making a slew of assumptions, so please just ignore me if that was out in left field. And then I didn't respond, not because I didn't want to respond. I just didn't see the message. I got busy, I got overwhelmed, and the message got pushed down. And they literally sent it, is it called a GIF? GIF?
Mm-hmm. I don't know.
Which one? They sent me a 1 second video, whatever it's called, GIF or GIF, of somebody putting their foot in their mouth. And they said, by the way, this is so me, just like I said, with a sad face. And then I saw the message however long later, and I sent them an audio back and said, hey, I'm so sorry that it took me like 2 months to get back to you. My sincere apologies. I promise you didn't offend me. I didn't even see the message. I appreciate you were trying to add value. You and I have a relationship. It's not like you were just selling me on something. That's my bad. Full ownership. And they sent a message back. And
it meant a lot.
It did. They sent me an audio saying, thank you so much for that. I appreciate it. And then they sent a written message after, which is the reason I wanted to do this episode. I said, also, I appreciate you naming the negativity bias that so many have. I'm sure that played a part in there somewhere for me. And it's one of those things where I don't know if any of us are really good at predicting what other people are thinking. I think usually it's quite the opposite. We think it's either going to go better than it's going to go, or it's going to go worse than it's going to go, depending on what your internal dialogue is, depending on what the record is that has been playing in your life for most of your life. So I thought it would be an interesting thing to dive into, because we all have an internal dialogue. This is one of the reasons self-awareness is so important. And until you become aware and start to try the shift of changing it, it's not going to happen. You're just always going to have the same overthought and the same rumination on things. So I thought it'd be a cool episode to do. I also deal with this too. Don't send serious messages through text messages, because it's very easy to, like, Alan sent okay, period. Is it like, does he hate me? Is he mad at me? Did I do something wrong? I don't get that with you anymore. Well, no, but let's say you did. I don't know.
Oh.
No, if anything, you're the opposite. You're not short-winded. You send long-ass messages. Less than ever, though. Less than ever. It used to be, for some reason, Alan would send, there'd be like 20 messages that were all a paragraph long. It's like, why couldn't you just send one long-ass message?
Because I didn't know it was going to go that far until I went deeper.
That's fair. I respect it.
And I realized that I've had notifications off for a long time, so I don't have as much empathy of how many dings that would be, like bing.
No
bing,
bings or no
bing.
dings. No bings or no dings. But Tara and I will be spending time together, and I'll go check on my phone, like Sunday, and I'll be like, 12 new messages from Alan. Okay, perfect. Let's take a gander. Let's see what we have going on here. And Taran's like, oh, Alan. That's our running joke.
Nice. And the reason why I think it's less than it used to be, and then we'll go to the point of this episode, is I feel like I'm not justifying as much as I used to. And I also think that there was a message I sent to you earlier. It was, please send, I think it was send blank, blank, blank. In the past, I would have been, that sounds a little.
I didn't even recognize.
You didn't even notice, right? But I should have asked. Afterwards, I was like, I probably should have, hey, do you mind sending? It would have been a warmer way to do it. But I also, it's Kev, like, send me the shit, man. You know, like, what are we doing here? So, but you can't turn off the warmth with everybody. It depends on the level of the relationship. And we've been business partners for a long time. Hey, do you mind maybe, please, if you could, maybe.
If you could find the time.
Yeah, find the time to send me the list of the thing that I need, man. But again, that's you know, a different story. So we were in Pittsburgh, you and I, and we were giving a training. This was broken into 3 separate hours. The first hour was sort of inspirational, motivational, very vulnerable. During lunch, mistake. Don't do it during lunch. And then the second hour was broken up into 3 different parts. One of the parts I said this. I said, everyone has a different record playing in the back of their head, and I'm going to overly simplify it to figure out which category you're in. So for everyone watching or listening right now, keep in mind this is a oversimplification. I'm going to do 3. Yeah, 3 records. The first record is the most common statistically. And this record is, they think it's going to go worse than it is. So this is the record that old Kevin used to have. Probably new Kevin still has, but maybe learned how to overcome.
Yeah.
And you can do this record. The record is, this person hates me. I suck.
I can give you
wasn't
one.
A good message. Yeah,
I got you. I got an email from a client last week. I said, "Hey, can you send me your link? I want to hop on a meeting to discuss some stuff." Shit. We're in trouble. Something's gone wrong. We messed something up. This person's going to leave. They want to tell me all the things we did wrong on the way out. I had a call with them today, and so he put in notes before we met. I'm interested in maybe doing a rebrand. Interested in getting some feedback on the audio and the video, and I'm looking for some strategies to maybe go from bi-weekly to weekly and grow the show. It's like, oh, okay. 20-minute meeting. It's great. Awesome. Cool. Strong work. But in my mind, I thought it was going to be something completely different.
So that record is usually things are worse. I think things are going to be worse than they really are. That's the record. Okay, so record 1, there's 3 records. Record 1 is, this is going to go horribly wrong. This is going to go horribly wrong. I suck. Whatever it is. Okay, negative record. The next record is, ooh, that person dislikes me. That person hates me. That person doesn't like me. Nobody likes me. I'm not going to be loved here. I'm not going to belong here. I'm not going to fit in here. I'm going to come off too cold, too direct. I'm going to be too much. That's the next record. The next record is, I'm not going to be loved for all of who I am. I don't belong. I don't belong here. Okay. Third record, and this is the one that I really don't fully understand yet. I'm working on it. I don't feel included. I don't feel included. This is the unwanted. I don't feel wanted. Nobody wants me. Nobody wants me. Nobody wants me. Nobody wants me. So the first one is, I'm not good enough. This is going to go horribly wrong. I'm in trouble. The second one is, I don't belong. Nobody likes me. I'm not going to be loved for all of who I am. The third one is, I don't feel included. I'm not going to be wanted. I'm not really wanted here. I'm not really wanted. I'm not included. And again, the third one I don't really fully understand, and I think that's the rarest. But ultimately, let's condense this into the 2 records. One of them is, I got this, I can do it, absolutely great, but I'm not going to belong or I'm not going to be liked. The other one is, I'm super likable, I'm super relatable, but I kind of suck at stuff. And this is going to go bad so one of them professionally feels very confident, but personally doesn't. The other one personally feels very confident, but professionally doesn't. And which record are you? Which of those 3 records are you? And if you're the first one, we can come up with there's a doom loop and a success loop for each. But either way, the point of this episode is, what record is the one that's running for you? Because you're basically filtering all of your information through that lens. So this person you're referring to, the opening story who reached out to you, they have the first record, I'm assuming.
Seems that way, yeah.
And so what was the thought record that was playing? Is I
For
bothered this person, yeah.
I'm coming off looking arrogant, and Kevin thinks I'm trying to sell him something, and he probably thinks I'm a shady person. I've offended him. That's what they were thinking.
Okay.
From my perspective.
And the reality is you were just busy.
Out here jeffing. Kid's just jeffing. It's got nothing to do with you. Nothing to do with you. In fact, if I saw the message, I would have responded faster knowing that you were feeling some type of way. I would have been inspired to message you soon if I saw that.
Yeah.
Because I don't want you to think that.
So what's the empowered alternative?
I don't know how empowering it is. The thought I have... Okay. I am somebody who has learned a lot about sales over the last 7 or 8 years. And just for context, I was a personal trainer for a time, and I literally paid $1,000 to get out of my contract because I was so bad at sales and I felt so dirty and I wasn't going to do it the way that they wanted to do it. So I had a very bad relationship with sales. If I've learned anything, it's people are inherently busy. They have 500,000 other things to think about before they're thinking about you. Just as an example, I get a message today from a client who's has a pretty large following. It's going to be interesting working with this person. And their assistant messaged me and said, "So sorry for the delay. This person has been out of office since December 23rd. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I wasn't even thinking about it. It's on my whiteboard. I was going to reach out to you in a couple weeks. All good. I literally wasn't even thinking about it. 5 years ago, I would have been messaging Alan. Like, dude, I think I said something wrong. Should I follow up? I think I offended them. Is the price too high? Is the price too low? Did I misspell something? Do you think the email actually went through? You think it went like somewhere else? But you can see how that... Yeah. What do they say? That you work yourself into a lather? I'm not sure what that means. Is it dirty? I don't think so. It probably could be misconstrued as dirty, but you work yourself into a lather. And nobody wants to be working themselves into a lather.
What's the quote? It's something, and again, I don't necessarily agree with this quote, but I'll follow up. Oh, I've had 1,000 things. It's like an older man or woman, and the quote is, I've had thousands of things go wrong in my life, most of which never happened. And we're ruminating and worrying about things that aren't even real a lot of the time. Now, here's the deal, and I need to be clear about this. Some things you should worry about. Every conversation where Kev came to me and said, "Do you think the price? What do you think?" Like that, we had improvements. You can't just don't worry about it. That there's a spectrum with everything. Some people are like, don't worry about it. Just assume that they're just busy. Well, you might have offended them.
That's fair.
And you might be sending terrible messages that are overly cold.
Yep.
So you got to be careful. So if you're on Kev's end, you probably overly worry, old Kev, about every little detail of the message, when in reality, they're just busy. They'll get back to you when they can. I always tell the story about a client of mine, ex-client, Rebecca. We're still close. And I sent a message to her about something, and she didn't get back to me for weeks, probably a month and a half or something. I was like, Rebecca hates me. Damn, Rebecca hates me. And I'm the second record of like, I don't belong. People don't like me. I'm not lovable, that kind of thing. And I had this moment with myself, this conversation of, Rebecca doesn't hate you. There's no way. She's just busy. She's got kids. She's got stuff going on. She's busy. She got back to me. She said, "Hey, thank you, blah, blah, blah." It was all fine. Totally fine. So I would say 80% of the time, at least, it's not as bad as you think. Sometimes you do actually offend people. And sometimes they are avoiding you. And sometimes they do dislike you. And sometimes they are mad at you. And I don't know if I know how to tell the difference. Here's what I would say. When you do get confirmation from the other person, if it is actually as negative as you originally thought, figure out what you can improve. And the real lesson underneath all these lessons is you got to shoot the shot, because most of the time it's going to go fine. And sometimes it won't. And that's the truth. And I think a lot of us are really... I always used to say I'm more afraid of success than failure, but I think when it comes to relationships that I care about, I'm more afraid of failure. And so I've had to be really aware of, when I send this message, I'm afraid to fail because I don't want to ruin this relationship.
Yeah.
Because I never felt confident in my ability not to do that. Because of what I did earlier with Kev. Like, hey man, send me this. That's how I naturally am. That's how I am with myself. You think I talk to myself, hey Alan, you really, could you please get out of bed today?
Well, that's the hard thing, is the way you communicate with yourself can't be the way you, once I can't. Creates potential issues if that's the way you communicate with other people.
Especially if they have a different thought record. Especially if they have a different record playing. Because if you have a record playing of, I want to be treated with warmth and compassion and kindness and love, and I'm coming at you with all these demands like I am with myself. Yeah, people always say treat others how you want to be treated. That isn't true.
No.
That's not true. No. Dude, I want to be treated. Don't wish me a happy birthday. Like, don't bother me unless it's of something,
But again, I think you're in the...
Yeah.
You're the exception more than the rule.
Agreed. But
so
if
I
you
think
treat others how you... Here's the platinum rule or whatever. Golden rule is treat others how you want to be treated. No. The platinum rule, or the better rule, I don't even like the platinum thing. The better rule is treat others how they want to be treated.
Yeah.
Learn about them. Learn how they want to be treated. Emilia wants to be treated differently than I do. I have to learn her and learn how she wants to be treated. So we were on a walk last night, just a tiny example of this, and she wanted me to hold space rather than problem solve. And that is not my go-to. If you come to me with a problem, usually I'm going to identify the root cause, come up with potential solutions and brainstorm them, and then we're going to implement. And that's what I do for a living. I've become very coachy in my coaching days. And that might be how I want to be treated, not always, but a lot of the time. And I just think that's got to be one of the silliest quotes ever, is like, treat others how you want to be treated. I think you need to treat others the way they want to be treated by actually learning who they really are.
It's a good bumper sticker.
There's a lot of good bumper stickers.
Well, there's a level above that. It's treat other people so well that it creates a new standard for the way they understand they could be treated.
Yeah,
imagine if you did that. But then you can't unless you know what they value. I could imagine if I sent Alan like a 16-piece orchestra and like flowers and chocolate and pizza to his house for his birthday. Be like, dude, Alan's gonna love this. That would be his literal fucking nightmare. And I would get a message being like, Kev, what is wrong with you? Why did you do that?
And why did you
spend all
that money?
Yeah. It was awesome, right? So two thoughts. One thought. Imagine, I usually say the relationship thing because I think the relationship thing is one of the better examples, but imagine two people that look the same exact way. They're twins. Good. Imagine twins. Twin A, twin B. Twin A has the internal dialogue of, I'm not good enough, I'm not good looking enough, I'm not smart enough, nobody wants me. Twin B has the opposite. I'm handsome, I'm beautiful, whatever. People would be lucky to be around me. All of that stuff. Who do you think is going to have more success in relationships and dating? At least, who do you think is going to attract more people? Second one. For sure. Because they're going to take more opportunities.
That second one's going to need some serious humility.
They're going to be in trouble.
They're going to be in trouble.
Same example.
Yeah.
Twin A, twin B. Same education, same resume, same everything. Sending job applications. One is going to send one, like me, is going to send one job application, not hear back and say, shit. They hate me. They might not have even seen my resume. They probably got a bunch of them.
They definitely didn't.
The twin B sends 100 resumes, and they get 20 calls. And it just reinforces, awesome, I'm valuable, I'm sought after. People actually want to have me around. So that's one thought. And then the second thought is, and this is a difficult one. I think it's always the person who is feeling the feelings responsibility to figure out why they're feeling that. But I do think if you know Ooh, Alan's not going to like this. If you know your communication style clashes with other people's communication style and the way they receive stuff, whose responsibility is it to ease the friction? That's my question for you. Next level nation, what is happening? If you've thought to yourself, I want to try coaching, but you don't really know where to start, group coaching would be a wonderful place for you. That's really why we created it in the first place. We start a new round every 90 days. So if you're hearing this, go to the website, nextleveluniverse.com, and we have the landing page where you can actually hold your spot right now. Even if there's a group going on right now, you can still lock your spot for the next one. The biggest thing that we've seen is as we get closer and closer to the date, unfortunately, some people end up missing. The group fills up and they can't do it, and then they end up regretting that. So please head over to the website. The link will be in the show notes, and we would love to see you there.
I think it depends is the answer.
It's a tough one.
Does the person aspire to be a positive leader? and here's the deal. So in a way, each individual I think is responsible, because this is the whole philosophical thing of like, is it the government's fault or is it your fault? Okay, let me give you an example. I have a client who has a credit card with 30% interest rate. That is downright criminal. It's like 33 or something. It's criminal. Rough one. Now, I said, but you did use the card. So it's like, yeah. Honestly, let me be real. The credit card company, that's criminal. It is. That's just bad. It's criminal. However, she used the card. So I'll never forget this. I was working for a company called Sensata Technologies, and we would go to lunch, and I had a mentor at the time. And we would go to lunch, and I said, doesn't it piss you off? Because I was in global product management, and I set the price of my product line, and I was learning all this stuff. This was in my early 20s. I was just learning about how the world actually works, and it was very alarming. A lot of the stuff was really alarming. It's like, wait, so you can just raise the price and no one can do anything about it? Like stuff like that, it's really quite tragic, seriously. But once you learn it, you can do something about it. So I bought this Gatorade, $2.41. And I was like, doesn't it piss you off that I pay $2.41 for sugar water? He said, Alan, you're the idiot who bought it. They're not going to lower the price if you keep buying it. Oh my God, I'm the problem. And again, at the end of the day, here's my point. Back to your question. This client of mine who has the 33% interest rate credit card, yes, that's criminal, but it's happening. And there's nothing you can do about it. So here's my truth. The credit card company is responsible, and that's unethical in my opinion. However, good luck lobbying for that. There's nothing you can do about it. So what you can do about it is pay that thing off ASAP Rocky and never use a credit card again and cut up your fucking credit cards. Dude, you want to know why I'm so about responsibility for the individual? It's because that's all we can do anything about. It's not my fault my childhood was what it was. It's not your fault. But at the end of the day, there's nothing we can do about, you're not going to shut down McDonald's, but you can stop eating it. And so I think every time you point externally, you're basically disempowering what you could do about it. And so to answer your original thought there, it is my responsibility to communicate effectively to the other person in the communication style that actually works, unless I want to basically suck at sales for the rest of my life and not actually help anybody.
Do you think you take over responsibility?
Yeah, but it's better than under. Yeah, fair. I do, for sure. I'm working on that. I think there's a drive to 5. Some people take under. They point outward always. I had an ex-girlfriend.
I'd rather be over for sure.
Yeah.
I'd rather
she'd be pointing at me and I'd be pointing at me. So I kept changing and growing and evolving, and eventually things didn't work. And I think a lot of people are under, though. I do, because
I agree.
The amount of responsibility that you take is predicated on self-efficacy. It's predicated on what you believe you're in control of. So for you take a lot of responsibility in fitness because you feel in control in fitness. But it's a self-fulfilling prophecy where if you have that thought record, back to the original part of this episode, if you think, oh, I suck, and that's your thought record, you're not going to take more responsibility. You're already crumbling under the responsibility you have. One of the main reasons why I think people don't like me and I do think some of that is not true and in my head, and some of that is very accurate, is because I take so much responsibility for not just my life, but also my family, the NLU team, the company, the world. I want to, improve the world. And that's no one want that. It's really hard to do and not get massive stress lines.
I've been doing a little nighttime routine with lotion and stuff. Taryn's been leading the charge on that. Yeah, and enjoy it. I enjoy it a little bit.
A little coconut oil going on.
I know. I've heard. I don't know. Taryn's got a whole regimen. She knows what's up. It's interesting because
What's your take on the responsibility thing?
I think if the reason you take responsibility is because you are forced to take so much responsibility in order to survive in life, I think it's dangerous to put that as an expectation on someone else. But I do think if you have the self-belief and you have the self-worth and you don't beat yourself up, I would rather be over than under for sure. And that's my thought. I would rather overshoot than undershoot because you can dial it back. It's hard to dial it forward if you don't know you're under.
The last episode, we talked about old Kev and new Kev and old listener and new listener. I feel like you take more responsibility the more you've become. So as you've grown, I've seen you take more and more and more responsibility. I guess, what was old Kev's 8 years ago? Like, what did he take responsibility for? Inside.
Probably the things that, probably only the things that affected me. Because I think, number one, I appreciate it. And number two, if that's the case, I think it's because I just have more belief. So I don't have a great example, but if Alan messages me and says, hey man, what happened here? Like what happened? Something is missing, whatever, right? Whatever it is. In the past, I wouldn't want to admit the truth because my core fear is I'm not good enough. Alan's going to know I'm not good enough, and now I'm in trouble because I made a mistake. Mm-hmm. Now I'm way better at just saying, yeah, dude, that's on me. My bad. I'll do better. Because I actually believe I can do better, and I don't believe me admitting the fact that I messed up is going to ostracize me from the group. I think that's really... So I think the more you believe in yourself, the more you're able to own. Because it doesn't trigger the piece of you that... For you, I think one of the reasons it's so easy and has been easy for you to own your quote-unquote mistakes is because you were afraid of leaving other people behind. So if you own your mistake, I think a couple things are going to happen. Balanced people are going to respect you more. They're going to say, oh, okay, cool. I appreciate that. People who are ego-driven are going to villainize you for that and say, yeah, you do suck a little bit, don't you? But they're not going to leave you. They're going to stick around. I mean, that's an easy win for them. So I think the same thing for you. I wonder if one of the reasons, and you have massive self-belief. So it's like the opposite of, I'm afraid to be left behind. So if somebody's pointing out my mistakes, I got to make an excuse fast of why this has happened.
Let's, again, the two records, let's just scratch everything we've said thus far. I know we got 12 minutes here. I want to talk about this understanding of one of the records. Let's break it all down to two records. The first record is I'm going to outgrow people. The second record is I'm going to be left behind. Let's talk about that from that frame. Which record do you think is more common? I think it's the second one. So the more common one I think is I'm going to be left behind. Is that true?
Yeah, but I think that was the first one in the way you said it.
In the original, yeah. Okay, first record is I'm going to be left behind. That's Kevin, old Kevin.
Yes.
And one of the values of NLU is we had different records. So yes. We learned
probably
each other's...
the most valuable
Agreed.
piece.
And the biggest bottleneck, too, because what are the chances people are going to resonate with both records? So the first record is I'm going to be left behind, and I'm not good enough. Let's just say I'm going to be left behind. Let's just leave it there. Simplify. Okay, I'm going to be left behind. The other record is I'm going to outgrow everybody and be alone. Mine was the second one, for sure.
Yeah.
Yours was the first?
Yeah, of course.
So in hindsight, you fought to keep up, and I fought to
keep people
around.
Yeah. I think you've said in the past, Kev, I think you're probably better at setting boundaries than you realize. I couldn't have anybody holding me back because I was already afraid I wasn't going to make it. You weren't very good at setting boundaries because it was like, I don't want to be on the ship alone, even if the people on the ship are sinking it. I'll keep the ship afloat. I'll find a way to keep it afloat. I don't know how to. I think this thing's going to sink no matter what. I know the best captain in the world on the ship. I still think we're going to sink. So I got to get.
Kev's over here throwing shit off the side.
I got to get. I want to be the only person.
Back on,
Pretty much. Yeah, pretty much.
Well,
pretty
earlier
much.
you came at me. It's the wrong phrasing, but you said,
It's fairly.
"Dude, we forgot about Freestyle Friday, man." And I was like, "This is your responsibility." The old me would have been, "You're absolutely right. It's on me, completely on me." And this time I was like, dude, this is your department. Which is good because, and I said this to Kev too, and I think this requires humility, which I wish I had more of in the past. I got to focus on my stuff. Yeah. Like my priorities they need my attention, and I can't run this show and do that at level 10. That's one thing that's really come up for me lately is like, I cannot do level 10 effort on everything. And I think...
And that's not just a you thing. That's an everybody thing.
Yeah. Putting level 10 effort into everything is a good way to destroy all self-worth. You will build a lot of self-belief, but you're going to destroy all your self-worth.
Well, and it's also a really good way to actually not put level 10 effort into anything. If you think about it. Like if you're putting level 10 effort into everything, you're probably putting level 10 effort into nothing.
I think the reason why is I was afraid. I think deep down I'm afraid if I go all in on my thing, I will leave people behind. I think that's the fear.
The fact of the matter is you might. I think that's the truth. You and I have had very vulnerable conversations in the past of like, I don't know, what if I get too much for you, Kev? It's like, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. I don't think it's going to happen. But if we ever wake up one day and you don't think I'm the business partner that you need or whatever, then that's a conversation we'll have. I don't think it's going to happen because I'm terrified of being left behind. So it's like, I feel like a lot would have to go wrong. You'd have to like not give me feedback for a year and be like, Kev, you're Jeffin. It's like, why did you tell me that a year ago, man? I had a lot of catching up to do. What the fuck? But I don't think that'll. But the truth of the matter is,
put that on you because I don't take ownership anymore.
And I wouldn't take ownership either. Like, no, that's on you. Yeah. But that is the unfortunate truth of it is, you are not. Nobody watching this or listening to this is for everybody. You're just not. And if you aspire to be for everybody, you most likely are abandoning one person, and that person is yourself.
That's a fact. That's a great quote right there.
That's why it's not sustainable.
I did that for a long time, man.
I think we all have, unfortunately. All right, what's your takeaway here before we skedaddle on out of here?
Am I off on how many minutes we have? I feel like we have time.
Well, that's time until your next call, but I'm looking at the time. We're 32 minutes into this bad Larry.
Okay.
Sometimes I wonder, and I mean this with all the respect in the world, sometimes I wonder how you get through life. I do. I do. I've said this before. Like, I've never met somebody so intelligent who also is like so off on so many things. Like, has no idea what time it is. Or
I do know what time it is. 7 minutes and 11 seconds. Till my
that's
next
not
meeting.
what time. Yeah. But that's not what time it is.
I should have put a 2-minute buffer.
Well, I'm giving you a 2-minute buffer because that's
You're giving me way more than a 2-minute buffer. So the first record is I'm going to be left behind, and I'm not going to achieve my goals and dreams if I get left behind because I'm not good enough. And that's deep down. None of that is necessarily socially. I don't think a lot of people own that socially. And the other one is, if I really lean into who I am, I'm probably going to accelerate in a way that not a lot of people can come with me. And if you want to reach your potential, and that's actually what you're optimizing for, if that's really the goal, you're going to have to, and I'll bring it to fulfillment as well. Instead of reaching your potential, let me say this. If you're going to be fulfilled with both self-belief and self-worth authentically, I do think you're going to have to lean into the courage it takes to overcome whatever that record is. It's almost like if your record is I'm not good enough and I'm going to be left behind, you have to have the humility to get mentors and coaches, have the humility to get accountability, have the humility to try and fail, the self-belief, fail forward thing, you're going to have to grind. Because the truth is, if you don't, you might actually get left behind. I mean, we all know. I have to work 10 times harder than some people in bodybuilding in order to keep up, for sure. I just wasn't afraid of that because I know I'll just do it. I don't mind being behind. That's fine. And then the other one is social courage, meaning you just have to be honest with people about what you really think and what you really feel. Because there were times in the past where that was really hard. It's like, Kev, I do work harder than you at this, and that's okay. But like, if you want to achieve what you've told me you want to achieve, you're not going to be able to like just go that other way. And it's your choice. I'm not forcing you, but the truth is yeah, we're not going to, build a globally successful company without a lot of effort.
It's like we were talking about that meme the other day when the guy was reading the testimonial for the course and there was a dude behind him with a gun. That's what Alan's saying. It's like, dude, you can do, if you don't want a podcast, you don't have to podcast. It's like, no, I love podcasts. It's awesome. I love it. I want to podcast with you forever. It's the best.
What's your takeaway?
My takeaway. I have thought about this very often. Imagine if the way I see green is completely different than the way you see green. The world is completely different to me than it is to you. And I think these records are a great example of that because almost everything is different for Alan than it is for me. And almost everything is different for me, maybe than it is for you, whether you're watching or listening. Is it as drastic as record 1 and record 2? No. But the grooves in the record are different. Everything is different. So I think the ultimate goal is to lean more towards 5. And the 5 is the understanding that if somebody doesn't get right back to you, it doesn't mean they're ignoring you. Maybe they are, but let's not jump immediately to that. Just like if somebody doesn't get back to you, don't jump immediately to, well, their loss. I sent the perfect email and they didn't get back to me. It's like, well, that might not be true either. Mm-hmm. That might not be true either.
Might be garbage.
It might be hot garbage.
And yeah. Yep.
And you might not be as good as you think you are. Well, maybe that's why you didn't get the opportunity. Because you're just not as good as you think you are. Right? I've been there for sure. I think we've all been there. So whatever your natural tendency is, try to extend the leash a little bit on it. And
you
let
are
it go
an
towards
avid
5.
Fisherman.
I was an avid fisherman. Here's the problem. I'm not anymore. And I'm not really an avid martial artist anymore either. I'm a bodybuilder though.
Can you give a little context to that?
My resume was bad. I didn't have many shining things on there, but under hobbies maybe it was I'm an avid fisherman and I'm well versed in the martial arts. And I didn't get any calls back really from almost any job, so.
But you also only applied to 3 of them.
I didn't apply to many. But my immediate thought is like, these people don't like fishermen. I remember I applied for a job at Securitas. It was a security job. And I was like, I am definitely going to get this. I have training in martial arts. Like, isn't that what you need? No, I don't think so. Not really. I mean, not if you're walking around a building that has nobody there at night. You're just like doing the rounds. It doesn't really matter. So I didn't get that job. Shout out to Securitas. You missed out. Look at me now, baby. Okay, cool. Next Level Nation, make sure you subscribe so you never miss an opportunity to get to the next level. Make sure you get your Dreamliner for Q1. Mine is on order. I messaged Alan and said, hey, brother, order me up a Dreamliner. I am genuinely missing it because I'm at the very end. So I have no pages left. So that will be here shortly. The hardcover, depending on where you live in the world, takes longer to ship than the soft cover. So make sure you give yourself enough time. Alan is pointing to the top of the mountain where we all aspire to be. As always, we love you. We appreciate you. Grateful for each and every one of you. At NLU, we don't have fans. We have family. We will talk to you all tomorrow.
Stay focused. Next Level Nation.